Hi, my name is Mark Stipic. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm the work cover guy who's answering the questions that people most commonly ask me. Now today I'm answering the question, what's the difference between an open claim and a closed claim? We've established previously that minor claims have no impact on an employer's work cover premium and standard claims do. Now standard claims are going to be categorised either as an open claim or a closed claim. Okay, so none of this applies to minor claims, they're just a minor claim. On your claims listings, you might sometimes see reopened, but that pretty much just means the same thing as opened. It just means that it once was closed and it's now been reopened. The key thing that determines what claims are open and what are closed is the question, is there currently weekly payments being paid on this claim? Okay. Open claims, generally the person will be off work or they'll only be working partial hours, so there's going to be some sort of compensation being paid. Closed claims, the person may well have had a full clearance and the claim is done, dusted and they've moved on, or the person might have just resumed their full hours at work but they're still on light duties and there might still be medical expenses being paid. Okay, so that's important to note that a closed claim can still have medical expenses being paid on it. Open claim also can have medical expenses paid on it. However, you cannot pay compensation on a closed claim. So if a claim is closed and it needs comp paid, it will need to be opened or reopened, the compensation is paid, and when there no longer needs to be comp paid, the claim is then closed and usually transferred to a low-risk case manager at that point in time. So really, open versus closed is just a way that the work cover insurer and WorkSafe can categorise the claims so that they can determine which ones need compensation paid and which ones do not. Now, one thing else that also comes along with that is that open claims will normally be assigned to a high-risk case manager or maybe a long-term case manager for longer-term injuries. Closed claims will normally be assigned to what's called either a low-risk case manager or a medical management team. Now, for the employer, that can generally also equate to a change in the level of case management that you're going to see. A high-risk case manager usually has a smaller portfolio and has the more experienced case managers. The low-risk case managers or the medical management teams usually have a much higher caseload and it's not as senior a role as the high-risk case managers. Now, sometimes for an employer, just because a person's back at work and working their normal hours and they might be on light duties full-time, just because the claim's been closed and there's no more comp, it doesn't mean that all the challenges have disappeared. And the same goes for the injured worker. Just because you've come back to full-time hours, it doesn't mean that the world is great. But be aware that with a closed claim, you may not get the same level of contact from your insurer or the level of case management. So it is going to put a bit more pressure on the employer and the injured worker and their support network at that point in time. Largely, I hope this has been helpful for you though. That's the key difference between open claims and closed claims. Is there compensation being paid or not? I hope this has been helpful for you. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'm the work cover guy, and if you've got a question for me, please let me know in the YouTube comments and head over to my website, markstipic.com.au, where there's plenty of other information and resources.